think it was Time magazine in maybe 1992 had a cover that said the internet, and it was all about how it was for the dark net, you know? And that was very much the Bitcoin story a year ago. I'm finding we've matured out of that story. I think people are sort of realizing that one, anything can be used for illicit means, and two, actually, this is not the ideal thing to use for illicit means because though it is private, it is fully traceable. Blockchain technology is a distributed ledger. And so it allows for the permanent, immutable, transparent recording of data, essentially, and transactions specifically. And so that can be used to, exchange any number of things that have value, whether that's an actual item. It could be, tea leaves making their way all the way to sort of final tea maker, or it could be me sending you a payment person to person without the need for intermediaries. I think of Bitcoin as being sort of the entry point to a digital future where everything that everything of value can and likely will be exchanged in digital format. Central banks will look to the Bitcoin experience to build central bank-backed digital assets. And then I think from an enterprise perspective where you move away from Bitcoin specifically and take what you learn from that to apply it to other use cases, you look at things like supply chains. You can use blockchain technology to help trace that, right? And so you can essentially assign a tag to items across the supply chain and record each movement down the chain on a blockchain. What I think we will have is private blockchains that fit into the public blockchains. Similar to the way we think about internet and intranets. So if you look back at sort of when the internet came out, a lot of companies had a very similar path where, oh, internet sounds interesting. We're actually interested in intranets. We want to do this internal connectivity. Ultimately, intranets didn't radically change our world, but they are a useful part of the ecosystem, right? They allow our businesses to interact with one another internally and then ultimately plug into a more public domain. And so I think that is ultimately what we're going to see is these partnerships, this collaborative process where we have companies using private blockchains that sit atop public blockchains. So on the consumer side, I think if I'm being really honest, there isn't a tremendous use case or a tremendously compelling use case for somebody like me, somebody who lives in New York, higher socioeconomic status, fairly well served by the current financial system. What's interesting is that doesn't mean that the system that serves me fairly well is a good system, right? So when you actually dig into the financial system as we know it today, it's fairly antiquated. So it's primarily built on technology that was created in the 70s. The thing that I find really exciting about this technology is not just that, the user like me, but users across the world. So 2.5 billion people across the globe are not served by the current financial system at all. That's 1 in 12 American families, and 1 in 5 families are underserved by the current financial system. So they have access to financial services, but at a tremendous cost. Those people, I think, today have a radical use case for this technology and Bitcoin specifically. I think about somebody who's sending money home to the Philippines. The typical send is about $200. And the typical fee for that send is $12. That's a half day's wage for the average person sending a cross-border payment. You can send it via Bitcoin for a couple pennies. That's a really meaningful use case. When I first joined, the conversation was very relegated to financial services. How are the big banks going to use this? And even that conversation was, how are the big banks going to use this to make their systems more efficient? I think that conversation has transitioned to, we're creating an entirely new model here. And even the big banks are sort of on board with that. People really want to be a part of this conversation, and that's the first step to this technology. As I said, the next step is, okay, we want to be part of the conversation. What can it really do for you? And my argument is that, there will be cases where the answer is nothing. But I think there will be far more conversations where the answer is really compelling. I think one of the issues that we have as an industry is that people are talking in 3 to 5 year increments, maybe 5 years. I think this is a decades-long experiment, and I don't know that I can say where I think we will be. What I can say is that I think there is, and I firmly believe this, I do not believe there is a single industry that will not be touched by this technology. And so, when you created the internet, there was no way to really predict Facebook. But the sort of basis of the internet was to connect people directly. And I think, and that's what Facebook does, right? It's a sort of delivery of that promise. I think the same is true for this technology. This technology is about allowing people to own and transact their own value. And so I think that will impact, identity. You think about sort of refugees and the inability to sort of register their identities. Well, you can do that with this. Land titles. Haiti, when the earthquake happened, most, if not all, of the land titles in the nation were held in one building that was destroyed. So you have a nation now that doesn't have land titling. And this technology can meaningfully change that.